Hi everybody, I'm going to go over the instructions for 6-3. So a quick reminder on how to get there. You just go to classwork and then you could click up here. You have view your assignments rather than a create button. And then you'll see 6-3 lesson and assignment. So that's what we're going to be working on. So I'm going to go to the study guide instructions. I'm going to click those three little dots to open that in a new window so I can hop back and forth between the tabs. I'm going to go back, click the back arrow, and then I have my 4 things again. There will be a 5th once I finish this video. This one is the actual assignment problems that you're going to do. Open that in a new window, go back, and then here's your answer sheet that you will type your answers into for all 15 problems. And then instead of these 2 icons up here, you'll have a button that says turn in, and so that's what you'll turn in. Here I've attached a YouTube video on solving proportions that I think is pretty helpful and on point for this lesson. But for starters, we'll just go over the study guide instructions. So this has to do with scale drawings and models. So this particular example has to do with a map. So if you're looking at a map, you're seeing where things are in relation to each other proportionally, but obviously on the map it just shows it looks like a distance of an inch, but obviously in real life that's actually several miles from where you're camping to the hike that you're going to take or the store or whatever. So you have to look at the map's scale so that you can figure out the distance in real life. So this gives you just a definition of what a scale factor is. A scale gives the relationship between the measurements on the drawing or model and the measurements of the real object. A map shows a scale of 1 inch is equal to 6 miles. So if a map shows that it's 1 inch from the store to where you're camping, in real life, that would be actually 6 miles that you're traveling from where you're camping to get to the store. The distance between 2 places on the map is 4.25 inches. So it's given us point A and point B, and if on the map it's 4.25 inches rather than just the scale factor of 1 inch to 6 miles, if I'm gone from 1 inch to 4.25 inches, I know that it's about 4 times the length in distance. So if 1 inch is 6 miles, then 4.25 inches is about 26 miles. So we have to figure out what the actual distance is. You can kind of figure it out in your head with these smaller numbers, or you can set up a proportional equation, which we've done the last 2 lessons with just fractions that are equivalent and solving for one variable to figure out which of those numbers fits to create 2 equivalent fractions that are just different proportions. So we can set up those proportional equations for something like this. It says let x represent the actual distance, because that's what we don't know. We know the scale factor, we know the map's distance, but we don't know the actual distance. So that's what we need to make a variable for, and then write and solve the problem. So you have basically 2 things that you're comparing here: the map width and then the real life or actual width. So for the map width, if you have 1 inch compared to 6 miles, then you're going to have equals to 4.25 inches compared to, we don't know how many miles in real life that is, so that's where we put our x. we always have to make sure that whatever units of measurement we're using match up. So the inches both have to be on top or on bottom, and the miles also have to line up as well, whether you're using that as your numerator or denominator. It doesn't matter if you put one on bottom or one on top, just as long as the units of measurement match on top or bottom. So on the top, both of them are inches, and on the bottom, both of the units of measurement are miles. So now, even if we took away our units of measurement, what we end up with fraction-wise is 1/6 is equal to 4.25 over x. So that's where we're going to have something to solve. And you can see that they kind of worked it out here. Your first step is to find cross products. What I always say is cross multiply. So it's two different terms that mean the same thing. Cross multiply or find cross products, because the product is an answer to a multiplication problem. After you cross multiply, so they went x times 1, and they got x times 1, or 1 times x. It doesn't matter what order you do multiplication in, and it's good practice to put the number before the variable. So they got 1 times x equals 6 times 4.25. They cross multiplied on the other side. Then they simplified, so they figured out what is 6 times 4.25, and it's 25.5. What step they didn't do is they didn't divide by the number attached to the variable, which in this case is 1, and that's why they didn't do it, is because dividing something by 1 gives you that same something. So x divided by 1 is x. You don't have to divide it to simplify it. So what we get for the actual distance, even if the map says it's 4.25 inches with the scale factor of 1 inch to 6 miles, the real life distance, if it's 4.25 inches on the map, is 25.5 miles from point A to point B. So that's the overview of the instructions, and we'll go ahead and work on some of the problems. I'm just going to exit out of my instructions window. And so here we have our instructions for the problems. On a set of architectural drawings for an office building, the scale is 0.25 inches is equal to 5 feet in real life. Find the actual length of each room. So on a piece of paper like blueprints, it's going to look really small, but in real life, obviously, the room is not going to be 1/4 of an inch. So I'm going to go to where I have this app so I can work out problems, but you could just use a piece of paper and a pencil. So I'm going to set up my proportional equation. I have to know what two things I'm comparing. I'm comparing inches and feet. So I'm going to say, I'll just put the inches on top and the feet on the bottom. Inches to feet. And then the first fraction I have is 0.25 inches and 5 feet. 0.25 inches to 5 feet equals, and then in my first one, I have been given the drawing distance for the lobby for this office building, and it's 1.6 inches, and I have my inches on the top. So I'm going to put my 1.6 inches on the top, and what I need to figure out is how many feet this actually is. So I'm just going to use the variable x. You could use f or whatever you feel like is appropriate. So now I have my proportional equation set up to figure out how many feet in real life the actual length of the lobby will be. So my first step is going to be to cross multiply. So I multiply across 5 times 1.6. And if you don't know how to do that in your head, you can just go Google, get a calculator, Plug it in. 5 times 1.6 equals 8. Go back to my piece of paper or whatever smooth draw. 5 times 1.6 equals 8. So now I have 8 on one side of my equal sign. Equals, cross multiply that 0.25 by x. Obviously, I don't know what x is, so the simplified version is 0.25. Oh, come on. Times x. Okay. The next step is to divide by that 0.25 because we always want to get the variable by itself, meaning like alone on one side of the equation or the equals sign. Since they're connected by multiplication, I undo multiplication by dividing. So I'm going to divide 0.25 times x by 0.25. Now what this does is it gets me x by itself because 0.25 divided by 0.25 is 1. And 1 times x is x. So what you're really doing is just kind of canceling that out on that side. So what's left on this side is x. But I have to remember what I do to one side, I do to the other. So I divided this side by 0.25. I have to divide this side by 0.25 as well. Bring my equals sign down. 8 divided by 0.25. I've got my 8 divided by 0.25 equals 32. So let's think about whether that makes sense. If we were told that the lobby is 1.6 inches on the map, would it make sense that it's actually 32 feet in real life? Yeah, probably. So that's my answer, 32. I'll go back to my assignment sheet and I'll make sure to use my units too. It was 32 feet in real life, not 32 inches. Okay, I'll do another one. Oh, back to the assignment. So now in the building, we figured out the actual distance of the lobby. I want to figure out the actual distance of the CEO office. I'm going to get rid of that. No, I don't want to save that ugly thing. Okay, the scale factor is the same. It's the same set of instructions. It's the same architectural drawings or blueprints for this office building. So the scale factor is still inches, 0.25 inches to feet. Inches to feet. Put my inches on the top and feet on the bottom. So for the CEO office, we have 1.35 inches. We don't know the actual feet. That's what we're measuring for. This time I'm going to use F as my variable. Is equal to, we know the scale is 0.25 inches to 5 feet. And you might have noticed that this time I did it backwards with my fractions. Last time I wrote the scale factor first, and this time I wrote the equation or the I wrote the one we have a variable for first. It doesn't matter. So the steps are the same. I'm gonna cross multiply across f times 25. I can't simplify that. I don't know what f is, but good practice is to put the number before the variable. I'm gonna write 0.25 times f. I don't have to write an X for a times symbol or a dot or parentheses or anything, because when a number is right next to a variable like that, it means to multiply. Then I cross multiply on the other side. 5 times 1.35. that I can get an answer to. 5 times 1.35 equals 6.75. 6.75. Okay. And the goal, as usual, is to get the variable by itself so that I can see what that would look like as a number. Okay, it's attached to the 0.25 by multiplication. We undo multiplication with division. What we do to one side of the equals sign, we have to do to the other side. Okay, so we do that to get rid of that number that's attached to the variable. And what we're left with now is just the variable. Good job. We got the variable alone on one side of the equation. We got it by itself. So now we do 6.75 divided by 0.25. And we get 27 feet. 27 feet is the length of the CEO office in real life. It's not 1.35 inches. So if I wanted to plug a number in for F now, I could. I'm going to erase it. And then I'm going to write in my value for F that I got, which is 27. So 1.35 over 27 is equal to 0.25 over 5. Really quickly, I'm going to write down my answer, 27 feet. Before I explain this, how they're equivalent fractions, if you want to check to make sure that you got your answer correct, you can plug in this fraction in your calculator. Remember, fractions are division. See what you get, and then it should be equal to this one if you were to plug this one into a calculator. So I'm going to do that 1.35 divided by 27. Clear. 1.35 divided by 27 equals 0.05. This thing doesn't like to do decimals. 0.05 equals, let's see if 0.25 divided by 5, it gives us the same answer, and it does, 0.05. So we got equivalent decimals, which we should get if we have a proportional equation. These numbers are have the same relationship in size to each other. So another way I could explain this is saying you could draw a smiley face really small or really big, but it's still you still get the concept of a smiley face, even if one is much smaller than the other. Even if one fraction has smaller numbers than another fraction, the relationship between the two things is going to be the same. Okay. Exit out of that. No. Go back. I already wrote my answer. So you just keep on working through those. It's going to be the same steps for every single one of them. I try to make it easy on you. But if you still want to meet in Google Hangouts in class time for 4th period, 2:30 to 2:55 on Mondays and Wednesdays, we'll work through more problems. If you still are struggling and want more help or want to work through more problems one-on-one, then you can schedule a meeting during office hours from 10 to 11:30. You just send me an invitation in Google Calendar, and I have shown you how to send an invitation in Google Calendar in your algebra class. So how to schedule a meeting on Google Calendar. So if you don't know how to do that, click on that and just click on the video and watch it. I think it's maybe 5 minutes long at the most. And I can't tell how long it is. anyways, you can schedule a meeting that way. All right. See you soon.